In the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you my aggressive investing catch up plan and why this is so important for you, especially if you're over 40 years old. Let me tell you how I started the aggressive investing movement in 2025. In December of 2024, I told you that you should make 2025 your aggressive investing year. Now we're in 2026. And then for those of you who follow the plan for aggressive investing in 2025, I'm sure that by December of 2025, going into this January, you would have amazed yourself. Your portfolio would have been totally unrecognizable. That's what's happened to me. And I'm going to share very, very openly and honestly how people in their 40s and above, and even 60, would be able to invest aggressively and catch up. In 2025, I turned 60. And then I had to be honest with myself. I couldn't retire. I couldn't have retired at 60. And then I found that at the rate I was going, to be able to fulfill the purpose that God put in my heart in the 1980s when I was still a teenager, it would take me until I am probably 90, 95 years to be able to. And I don't have that time because at 95, I'm quarter to go. So I had to come up with an aggressive investing plan that could compress the time so that something that would take me 40 years, I could do it within the next 5 years. So, what is our aggressive investing? If you're over 40 and you don't have assets that produce money, that produce income while you sleep, and then if when you talk about retirement or you think about retirement like myself, it seems like a foggy hope. It's not something that is a clean plan. You can't see it ahead. You can't say for sure that in the next 5 or 10 years I'm going to retire. So if you are in that category, you don't have the luxury of slow learning. And you don't have the luxury of investing as if you're still in your 20s. You don't have the luxury of being gentle about this thing. So that's why I've captured it aggressive investing. So I want to boldly claim here that aggressive investing is the only hope for people who are already in their 40s or 50s and 60s. And then they look ahead and the future is not looking very, very good financially. You've got to be aggressive because you cannot afford to invest in your 40s and 50s the way you invested in your 20s. The money game in your 40s is not the same as the money game in your 20s. And I'm going to give you a framework to be able to do that. The first thing that you want to do for aggressive investing to work, for the aggressive investing framework I'm going to teach you to work, is that you have to start confronting the mindset of the past. You've got to start confronting the errors of the past, the errors you made in your finances that brought you to where you are today. Because when you look at it, at 40 and at 50, significant sums of money have passed through your hands. But because of the errors you made, because of the lack of financial literacy that you suffered in the past 40, 50 years of your life, things are the way they are today. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is to sit down with yourself for just a couple of minutes, 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes, and ask yourself, what really hasn't worked in your personal finance? So you're 45, you're 48, you're 55, you're 62, or you're 60, like me. What didn't work in your personal finance? Because the challenge is, if you don't know what has brought you where you are, if you don't highlight those errors and deal with them, chances are that you will continue to repeat the same errors because they have become habits. And because they became habits, they have capped your income and your financial performance and will continue to do so in the next 5, 10, 20 years unless you actually find out why. And then in my case, and in the case of the hundreds and thousands of people that I've helped since I left Shell in this journey, I find that there are certain errors in the past that are very common to many of us. One is that our money had no structure. In our 20s, 30s, we made lots of money. Even in our early 40s, we made lots of money. But you see, money loves structure. And because your money didn't have structure, you look behind you and you're asking, where did all the money go? And you look behind you, like the other man who told me the other day, he said, I have worked for nearly 30 years. He's 58. And he said, when I look back, there's nothing to show for it. And do you know why? Because your money lacks structure. The second commonality I find with people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who are struggling with money and who are terrified of the prospects of not being able to retire is capital cannibalization. It was a big error in my part and the part of many of you watching this. What is capital cannibalization? You earn fat salaries, you earn income um, from different sources in your younger years, but you cannibalized it because capital was given to you for making more capital. Much of the capital that was given to you earlier in your life in the form of your salary, your 9 to 5 salary, and all similar things were for multiplying, were to secure your future. Some of the capital was not supposed to be consumed, but you cannibalized it. You went on expensive vacations with a family and you use salary. Unlike the rich people don't use their salary, they don't use their capital to go for vacations. Those vacations, you imitate them, you try to be like them. They don't use their capital. They use profits, they use dividends from their investments, but you used the capital, you cannibalized it. So now you're in your 50s, you have nothing to show for it because you cannibalize your capital in your 30s. The other major error that has brought many of us to a state where we are 60 and we can't retire. Because ideally, I'm telling you, the ideal time to retire, if you know what you're doing, is 40, maybe 45, or max 50. But some of us are in our 60s already and we can't retire. We're still hustling. We're still working hard. We're still trading our time for money. Part of the reason was we didn't participate in the financial markets. It's impossible, really, to retire rich without any involvement in the financial markets. And then for some of us, it was plain lack of discipline with money, with time, with relationship. And then another really bad one is social comparisons and also showing off, flexing, the flex culture. We compare ourselves with our neighbors. One of the young men who worked for me, he sent me a message today that he wants to kill a cow for his father. His father died, God knows how many years ago. But he said that his cousins are doing the same thing for their father and that his cousins have money to be able to do things. And he doesn't want to look like that. He told me that it will look somehow if his cousins are doing that in the village for his father, for their father, and he can't do that for his father. And he's killing cow. A cow, as at now, is about 1.5 to 1.8 million, depending on where you buy that. And I can imagine what that 1.5 million will do for this young man's life if he buys a few stocks today with it, just one stock with it, could make him extremely wealthy in another 3 to 5 years. But he is showing off. He doesn't want to feel, and part of the reason he was calling me was also to contribute money to kill cow for his dead father who doesn't even know what's going on. Social comparisons. So many of us behaved like that in our earlier years, and then today we are paying the consequences, the price of that. So part of rewiring your brain is understanding the difference between earning versus building. So most of us, up till our 40s and 50s, and up till now, all we've been taught was to earn money. And so we went to school, got our certificates, came out, applied for jobs, started earning. But what we never taught was to build wealth. Building wealth. Many of us in our 40s and 50s have no idea what it means about building wealth. Now, wealth grows when three things collide. Number one, focus. That's your attention. Number two, capital that we've already talked about. And number three, time. So wealth grows when your attention, your money, and your time are all headed in the same direction. They're all pulling in one direction at the same time. That's a very important thing to bear in mind because wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It doesn't grow linearly like we were taught. So in your 20s, your money was scattered. So talking about focus, your money lacked focus, it lacked attention, it was scattered. A few stocks here, a few side hustles there, a few assets in dollars if it was really scattered. There was no story, no narrative to it. Your focus was diluted, and then your priorities were emotional, like the black tax, like all this extended family burden that nobody sent you, as we say in Nigeria. So 20 years passed, and there was no compounding because there was no structure. There was nothing to compound. And this is why aggressive investing comes into play, because with all these mistakes you've made in the past and with the way things are and given the uncertain future, you don't have the luxury of investing leisurely like people in their 20s and 30s. No, you don't have that kind of luxury. I'm 60. I can't be investing like you, who are 30 years old or 25. I can't. I won't make it. So these are the four ideas I want you to internalize and then possibly even memorize it in this framework. So shortly after this, I'm going to break this into 5 or 6 steps, actionable. And then for those of you in the Financial Fitness Challenge, I will also provide you a worksheet to help you to plan your aggressive investing for 2026, like I did in 2025. And I literally 10x, more than 10x, like about 12x my portfolio in 1 year using this framework. It's powerful, it's not theoretical, it's not motivational, and you're going to see that for yourself. And the best way to actually test it for yourself is to implement it, is to understand it and to implement it. I am telling you, friends, if you're in your 50s and 60s, do not start thinking about making yourself dependent, maybe on your children, or dependent on your church, your society, or the community, or GoFundMe in your old age. If you're 50, chances are you're still going to be here. In another 40 years, how are you going to fund the rest of your life? Are you going to fund it entirely dependent on other people's mercy and compassion? That is scary. I don't want that for me. So, this aggressive investing involves, number one, concentrate money. Remember, I said that money was scattered in your 20s and 30s. There was no structure to it, it was scattered. So, right now, you're going to seriously concentrate money. I want you to think about what happens when you go out under the sun, especially if you live in the tropic area, and then you're having a concave mirror. If you put a newspaper on the grass under the sun, it doesn't burn. But the moment you use a concave or convex mirror and then you concentrate the rays of the sun on that newspaper, what happens? It catches fire, it burns. That's what you have to do with your money in your 40s and 50s and 60s. You've got to concentrate it. That's aggressive investing. Anytime you think about aggressive investing and concentrating your money, think about concentrating the rays of the sun and the impact it burns. You really need to burn through in your investment. It also means compressing time, because as you're concentrating your money, you're compressing time. So what you lost in 20 years, what you lost in 20, 30 years, your aggression will use 3 to 5 years to build it. It takes aggression to do in 3, 5 years what you couldn't do in the past 20 years of your life. And it's doable, because the only way you can get the results that you lost in the past 20, 30 years is to compress time. And compressing time depicts aggression. When you're trying to do in 5 years what you could have done in 30 years, you must compress time. The third thing is that you're going to protect discipline, because this thing is ultimately going to be about behavior more than it is about money. So you've got to protect your discipline. And then, most importantly, consistency. This aggressive investing framework involves consistency. So I'm going to give you a framework that will force you to automate and to invest and to do all these 3 things repeatedly every week. So why does the next 3 to 5 years matter? Because wealth grows with consciousness, not time. And that's good news. So you don't really need 20 years to grow wealth. What you need is to grow your consciousness of wealth. And then that wealth will naturally be attracted to you. So money is more about consciousness than time. So the ancients in my village say that anytime you wake up is your morning. So some people build their wealth and retire by 40. Some even do it by 30, 35. Others suddenly wake up at 60 and they do it by 65. The same goal. What changed? Because all of a sudden that consciousness grew within them. Okay. And like I've already mentioned, your last 20 years were diluted by scattered priorities. So the next 3 to 5 years will be different because you're going to structure. You're not going to allow that sort of, scattered, random money activities. You're going to focus it in through a structure. Okay. The other thing you want to do is to separate your money concept into two mental votes. You have survival money and then you have aggressive investing money. The survival money would include your rent, your food, utility, transport, and then at least something to maintain minimum dignity. Something that, you have dignity, not to go out in the streets and begin to beg. That's your survival money. And the challenge is you can't invest with survival money. One of the biggest follies people commit is they say, "Oh, but my rent is due in 3 months, and I have this amount of money. I have 2 million. How can I invest it? What stock can I buy so that in 3 months I can use it to pay my rent?" No, no, no. You don't think that investing with rent money can be very, very anxiety producing. You're going to be very anxious. So you can't invest with survival money, but you're going to need aggressive investing money. It's committed, it is detached from your emotions. So if all those people who call, maybe you live in the United States or in Europe or in Canada, and then you have all those people back home, your home country, who keep calling you, "Oh, my phone is spoiled," and then you send the money. No, aggressive investing money doesn't have that kind of emotional attachment. It is a standing order to build your future. So let me give you a framework of 5 steps for you to catch up. If you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 60, if you're even 70 watching this, you can catch up. You can catch up. What you do, if you're 70, I can guarantee you that what you couldn't accomplish in terms of your financial fitness, in terms of your financial comfort and stability, and then in terms of, being able to have abundance enough to retire and also to do the things that God has put in your heart to do, you can catch up following this plan. So the first step is to declare a 36 to 60-month war period. We're talking about aggression. We're talking about aggression. You're not going to go easy. You literally have to have that military mindset because you're trying to do in 3 years what you couldn't do in 30 years. And then the second is to free capital aggressively because you're going to need the capital to put to work. The third is to protect survival money, like I've told you, because you can't invest survival money. Then you also need to expand income aggressively because the question is, if you have to invest aggressively, you also need to build the cash flow, the income to use to pump into the aggressive. If you're thinking about the same military mentality, that would be like the bullets. You're going to need the bullets, the magazine, to keep pumping. And then the final part of the framework is to invest weekly without fail. If you're in my wealth mentorship group, the financial fitness group, I'm going to give you a worksheet that will help you to implement this. And if you are not, if you look at the description section of this particular video, you will see a link to join my mentorship group. So step number 1, declare the war period. Tell yourself that the next 3 to 5 years, is a very, very intense phase. You are going to deprioritize comfort. And then whatever socially made, you want to put out there, you are going to deprioritize that. I was telling my neighbor the other day, there are many things I can afford. Last year, I needed a car badly. I still need a car. I can afford a car. But this is a very intense period. Having a car will be so comfortable for me. But I refuse to buy the car. So I deprioritize that. And then, some people come and say, "Oh, this phone you're using, oh boy, you should use more expensive phone." And I asked, somebody wanted to sell a phone to me and I asked how much. He said, it's 1.3 million, 1.4 million naira. I said, "Please get God, get out of here. I have the money. I could pay that. But image in the next 3 to 5 years is not priority. How I look or what people think about me, that or what they think about you, what you have, what you don't have, that's totally out of the question. This is war period. In war, you don't care about image. Okay. And then what becomes your core metric is that you're making progress. You wake up every morning, you look at your net worth, you look at your portfolio, it's making progress. That is what you want to look at. Step number two, or before I go to start with step number two, part of this declaring war is to start with what I call the impossible number. So you must choose a target portfolio for these 3 to 5 years that shocks you. It really has to be something shocking. You can say something like 1 million portfolio in the next 3 years, $1 million. You can say, I want to acquire 1 million shares of each of Presco, of Jitco, Custodian, GangSem, MTN, and these are actually my premium stocks. In the next 5 years, you want to acquire 1 million each. Okay, so I have a very similar, it's an impossible number. By the time you go look at those shares and look at what 1 million of each represents, you know it's an impossible number. Now, why do you need to choose an impossible number for your aggressive investing? Because see, your mind, your brain is a goal-seeking organ. Your brain requires clear goals, clear targets. So you want to give it a clear target, $1 million. And that clear target is what's going to be pulling you forward. That's what's going to be organizing your activities, organizing your environment to meet it. And then the other reason is realistic goals will continue to preserve your old behaviors. And then if your old behaviors continue, you'll get exactly the same results. But impossible goals like this one forces new behaviors. Step number two, free capital fast. See, the problem that many of you have, I can almost guess, because I've been doing this with thousands of people, is what is called a family black tax, where you are there. The black tax concept originally was applied to people like Africans or the people from Caribbean who live in the diaspora, like in the US, Canada, Europe, and then they constantly have to send money home. They impoverish themselves. They take on 3 jobs because they have to continue to send money. You're literally the cash cow for people back in the country. Pause it. Sell unused assets. If you have 3 cars, you can sell 2. Downsize your housing if necessary. Before the children all left home, we were living in, what Nigerians call duplex, like a 5-bedroom house, with guest quarters, boys' quarter, they call it. But they all left, and it's just both of us. And so we had to downsize to a 3-bedroom flat, because the children have all left home. Why keep such a big house, which is also very expensive? So cut lifestyle spending ruthlessly. It's amazing. A young man was telling me the other day, he buys, but I don't know how many times he buys Hennessy every week. And I asked how much is Hennessy. He said 55,000. You've got to cut your lifestyle spending. So there's something I call capital extraction, because you have to find the aggressive investing capital. You've got to find it. You got to find it because you can't use your survival money to do that. And then for some of you already in your pension, receiving pension, you can't use pension money to do that. So you've got to find new money. So the first is to end the financial leakage that you have. If there are places that money is leaking in your life right now, in your structure, end it. And then cut consumption. Step number 3, protect your survival money. Like I said, separate survival money from the aggressive investing money. And then never invest with fear money. Fear money is any money you are afraid to lose. Any money you can't sleep at night if you invest it. That's fear money. Don't invest with that kind of money, because fear will destroy your discipline. Step number 4, expand your income. Find new money. Let cash. In fact, you can follow the everyday money blueprint, which is part of the financial fitness challenge that I teach. Is actually one of the modules. Earn money every day. It's a requirement. It's not optional for everyone in my wealth mentorship. Certain things are not optional. And then one of them is you must earn money every day in your local currency and in dollar. And the everyday money opportunities are incredibly there. If you haven't gone through that module in the Financial Fitness Challenge learning portal, go through that module, follow the worksheet, find your everyday money. Learn sales and marketing. And then you have skills and experience that you can monetize. Do that. Build deal flow and leverage, because you've got to expand the cash flow available for you for aggressive investing. And then finally, step number 5 is your weekly investing discipline. Doing that regularly and investing consistently is one of the secrets of investing that very few people realize. So it's better for you if you have $5 every week, $3 every day. Invest that. Don't wait for the big amount. In 3 years, you will shock yourself what that $5 a week has done for you. Okay. And then make it a disciplined thing. In fact, in my own case in 2026, I am determined to invest every weekday for the whole of the year. It's my own personal challenge. And if you like, you can join me in that challenge. It doesn't matter, but I must buy an asset. Even if that asset is one share of, say, GT Bank, Dangote Cement, even if it's one, I can afford it every day. Because with 600 naira, I can buy something. With 500, I can buy something. With 5 million, I can buy something. So any day, 1,000 naira comes, I buy. Any day 10 million comes, I will buy, but I will invest every single day throughout this year. Consistency will shock you. Consistency in investing will shock you when you make it discipline without fail. Now, let me see something that will help and cheer you. It's very powerful, it's spiritually true, and it is my experience, and I can't even explain it, but it's a very powerful spiritual truth. And that is for those of you who say, oh, but I don't have money to invest. Here's the good news. When you ramp up the hunger to invest inside you, when the hunger to invest and to invest consistently is intense, when that hunger rises, the same thing happens. When that hunger rises, the money comes. The money to invest comes to you from sources you never expected. If the hunger is there, the money will come. You know, there's something an Old Testament prophet had said many years ago, thousands of years ago. He said that God gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So if you've made up your mind to be an investor, to be a planter, God will provide the seed. Okay. So why does this work? Because capital is concentrated, it's not scattered. Time is intentionally compressed and emotions removed. And then one last word. When you are aggressive, when you are investing aggressively, make sure that you give attention to your health, because health is non-negotiable. Exercise consistently, eat clean, protect your sleep and energy, because you don't want to be at the end of it, after all the aggressive investment, you don't want to be the wealthiest man in the cemetery. And then my own personal experience is that exercising regularly, eating clean, and being in a clean environment and sleeping very well also affects my mind, because the mind is healthy, the body is healthy. The body is healthy, it also affects the mind. All right, so if you haven't joined the Financial Fitness Challenge, please do so you can download the worksheet that will guide you in actually implementing it, including what exactly are you going to invest in and how do you plan the weekly automation. And whatever happens, keep showing up, because you never know what's coming your way next. And I'll see you in the next video.